We live in a time of deep spiritual deception. Sexual sin is everywhere, celebrated, promoted, and defended. The world calls it normal. Society mocks purity and tells us it's unnatural to be celibate. Everyone masturbates, it's not a big deal. As long as you love each other, sex before marriage is fine. But Jesus says no. This is not just an old-fashioned belief. This is the truth that decides the fate of souls. And I must share something urgent with you, something Jesus himself revealed to me. I had an encounter where he spoke clearly about this. His words were direct, piercing. This behavior is unacceptable. They are abusing my body by receiving Holy Communion in this state. Too many people are living in grave sin, and they do not even realize it. The reality of sexual sin: it kills the soul. Fornication, masturbation, pornography, adultery, contraception, these are not just bad habits, they are grave sins. And yet, how many Catholics are trapped in them? How many approach the altar every Sunday without ever confessing these sins? Many say, "It's just my body, I'm not hurting anyone." But sin is never just personal. It affects your soul, your relationship with God, and even those around you. Masturbation in particular has been heavily normalized in today's culture. Even among married couples, some believe it's acceptable, but it never is. Masturbation is not even allowed in marriage. Many think once they get married, they can do whatever they want sexually. This is false. Marriage does not make impurity holy. The Church teaches clearly, sexual pleasure is only moral when it respects the dignity of both spouses and remains open to life. Masturbation, whether inside or outside marriage, is self-seeking pleasure, detached from true love and union. Even within marriage, it is a serious sin. CCC 2352. St. Thomas Aquinas even ranked sins against purity among the gravest because they disorder the human soul, making it a slave to the flesh. Some spouses even engage in mutual masturbation or lustful acts, thinking that because they are married, it is okay. But any sexual act that does not respect God's design is a sin. Marriage is not a license for lust. It is a sacrament of love and self-giving. Sexual sin and the Holy Eucharist, a terrifying reality. Now think about this. How many Catholics are committing these sins regularly? And worse, how many of them are still receiving the Eucharist? When Jesus revealed to me that many were abusing the Eucharist in this state, I knew this was an urgent warning. St. Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 11:27-29, "Whoever eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of sinning against the body and blood of the Lord. For anyone who eats and drinks without discerning the body, eats and drinks judgment on himself." Do we really understand what this means? Unworthy communion is a sacrilege. It brings judgment, not grace. And if a person dies in this state without repentance, they are lost for eternity. This is not a small matter. This is the difference between heaven and hell. Satan's greatest lie: this is normal. The devil knows that impurity weakens the soul. It enslaves a person, making them spiritually blind. That is why he has worked so hard to normalize it. He tells people, masturbation is healthy. It relieves stress. Sex before marriage is fine if you love each other. Pornography isn't cheating, it's just entertainment. God understands, it's just a struggle. These are Satan's lies. And what is the result? A world drowning in sexual sin. A church filled with people receiving communion in mortal sin. Souls falling into hell because they believe these lies. Our Lady of Fatima warned us, more souls go to hell for sins of the flesh than for any other reason. Why? Because impurity is addictive. It darkens the soul. It blinds a person from the need for repentance. There is still hope, but you must act now. If you have fallen into these sins, do not despair, there is still time, but you must act now. Jesus Christ is merciful, but he is also just. Do not wait. Do not tell yourself, I'll confess later. You don't know if there will be a later. If you are trapped in sexual sin, seek confession immediately. If you have been receiving the Eucharist in this state, stop until you are truly in a state of grace. If you are in a relationship where you are sinning, choose purity now. Holiness is possible. Jesus does not call us to the impossible. He calls us to something greater, true freedom. And when you finally return to the altar with a pure heart, a clean soul, and a true love for Jesus, you will receive the Eucharist as it was meant to be received, with power, grace, and joy. This is the path to heaven. Jesus is calling. Will you answer?